Okay, good night, crawl space guy.
Good night, crawl space guy.
Sleep well, crawl space guy.
Fuck. There's a man who allegedly lives in the crawl space.
Yes.
Or a woman.
Or women. We don't know who lives in the crawl
Or
space.
they, them.
Anybody could be living in the crawl space outside of our apartment. But don't worry, we put up no trespassing signs, so that should take care of it.
That way it's prosecutable.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
I'm Erin.
I'm Julia Went.
This is
Stream Queens.
Yeah.
We are the Bushwick intellectual class.
We are. We've been working on kind of like, we got some feedback from Amelia at Girls Rewatch podcast.
Our sister podcast.
Our sister podcast, if you will, if they will.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll ask them later.
Yeah, here's an Easter egg. If you hear this, let us know.
Evan and Amelia, you're listening?
Yeah, it's not coming up. I'll tell you that.
Give us a shout.
No, give us a shout. What number? The secret number is 7. And when I asked for the secret number, it's 7.
But Amelia gave us some feedback that we had been failing to establish why you should be listening to our take. Failing is a strong word.
That's the one she used, but yeah.
It's the one she used.
Yeah.
But so we wanted to kind of take a moment to like really establish for the audience like why you should listen to our take.
Well, it's the definitive take for sure.
Because it's why us, right? Like it's like we all know why we're watching The White Lotus. It's a fabulous show, and Mike White is an elite creator. But why should you listen to us talk about it, Julia?
Well, this is our life's work is television, talking about television, dissecting television, analyzing television. We met under the best of terms at
TV school,
at film and TV school, where
at NYU,
home of Barron Trump. I'll say it.
Hey
diva.
Now, and you know he's listening
for sure.
Secret number is
he's got
8.
Those big old ears. Absolutely, secret number is 8. But we went to TV school. We're both
we're both television
professionals in the entertainment industry.
We work in the entertainment industry. We work in TV. We make TV, and we also we're in Bushwick, which makes us kind of elite.
On the center of the pulse.
Yes, yeah. We're right on the pulse. Like we are.
Lived together for 10 years.
We have lived together for so long. We've watched so many shows together, and we just like our living room is kind of a cultural hub, if you will. It's like a salon.
We take this seriously. Sorry.
We take it so seriously that another thing I've noticed kind of listening to the previous episodes of the pod, like our ability to kind of switch between actor name, character name, talking about the dynamics on set and where the camera might be, but also taking the characters so seriously and getting angry as if they are our siblings it goes to show our level of investment.
Well, and a very kind of varied relationship with reality.
A varied relationship with reality, which is something you're not going to get everywhere else on every other podcast. Like our kind of parasocial dynamics are, I think, our bread and butter.
Our bread and butter. Dynamics are our bread and butter.
Dynamics are our bread and butter. And I also would say, what you said I think is perfect. We are the Bushwick intellectual class. We're the leisure class. We have time to watch and analyze TV shows. We have
the education, the experience, the expertise to do so as well.
Yes.
Yeah, we are the Bushwick intellectual class with the definitive take on all things pop culture. And right now that means White Lotus Season 3, Episode 6, Denial.
Absolutely. Because
what did you think of this episode?
Okay, so
we just watched it, by the way. Like, this is live.
It's so fresh. Like, and that's like, it's such a different experience because I haven't had time to kind of like watch it multiple times and analyze. But I think that overall my impression of the episode was that it really was about, as per usual, it was about relationship dynamics, but it was about the moments when relationships change and how that is kind of palpably felt in these things. It's about the moments that will alter a relationship and how the kind of cards fall. And I noticed we were doing like a lot of aerial shots in this episode.
Yes.
A lot of this episode felt almost like a bird's eye view of the dynamics. It's like we'd been building up to the full moon party. Now we're dealing with the fallout. This is the next morning episode. The whole beginning was these beautiful early morning shots. Like that kind of glow of dawn. And it was just like Oh,
it was really fucking pretty.
Yeah, it really was kind of a hangover episode. Like, it's like, this is the fallout, right? Like, this is what are we going to deal with now after the full moon party?
We've all had nights like these. We've all had mornings like these.
Well, yes, we have. And I will say, like, I've had some mornings recently. I've had them in the past. Okay, mornings where I wake up and I wish to God I'd fully blacked that out. Woof. But I remember, but I'd never experienced precisely this one, what Saxon and Lachlan have to deal with waking up.
I'll say the same thing to Saxon that my mother, Barbara, said to me when my cousin Nick was singing along during her Broadway show and she thought it was me at intermission. She said, perhaps if you can't handle your alcohol, you shouldn't drink.
Whoa.
And that's something I'll say to Saxon. Baby, if you can't handle your pressed pills, keep your mouth shut.
Oh, my God. Well, I guess, I mean, we're on the boat, huh?
Which, to name the incest in the room, the building flirtation to kissing to some sort of sexual event happened. Clearly.
Well, Chloe named it. Threesome.
I mean, hello.
Name it. Call it what it is. It was a threesome with your brother.
By the fucking pool.
With your high school brother.
Is doing, I mean.
It's crazy.
And to me, and so, like, she, and I couldn't quite come up with the words, and I still can't, but last episode, like, the dynamic that she's playing from her position with Gary Gregg, but she's making me think just this time right now, like, bottom power.
Yeah, she is really able to do, she's such a switch, right? She can be so submissive to Gary, but like a bratty submissive where she's like, I'm going to take the boat, right? But she's like, but obviously she wants to be with him because it's a good situation, as she gets said. But then she's so in charge of the kind of Lachlan Saxon dynamic.
Right, and her femininity, right, thinking along stereotypical generalization lines, but her femininity, her seduction, her having fucking sex with both of these fucking brothers is the thing that she has over on Saxon for social power, and perhaps financial or otherwise, like outside of the dynamic of leisure people sitting at a pool.
Well, and we talked last week about Saxon potentially could he become a fall guy, and my question is well, if Gary Gregg wants Saxon and Belinda there, like, is the fall for his father, or is he getting set up for something else when he goes to Gary Gregg's house?
Right. Oh, that's a great point. Saxon, we've said it every episode, is the new
Albie.
He's
Saxon
a fucking mark.
Albie. He's a mark, and I'm worried for what Chloe's going to rope him into in this episode, but I also, I'm just reeling with them right alongside them. Like, I'm like, that is such a insane mistake those two made.
Well, we start the morning right that it appears as if, or all Saxon can remember, is that he was in the same bed as Lachlan when Lachlan and Chloe were fucking.
Yeah.
And Lachlan was on top heavy. Oh, yeah. And Saxon was
jerking off, and he remembers that. He knows for a fact he jerked off. And then it's really interesting.
On his little stub.
Yeah. He was jerking off next to Lachlan fucking Chloe. And then as the episode goes on,
you thought that was bad, brother.
You thought that was bad. And then you learn that Lachlan jerked Saxon off.
Hello.
And it is so interesting to me. It's like Mike White, obviously not afraid of incest, not afraid to bring it up, not afraid to talk about it. And I think it's really interesting, these lines that we have, right? Because it's like, they kiss. Nice. We have a reaction to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cheering.
Lachlan fucks. Me too. Cheering.
Yeah.
Lachlan fucks Chloe sitting next to Saxon. We have a reaction to that. Then the idea that Lachlan has now touched Saxon's dick is this escalation in another way that I'm like, it is so interesting because it's like, where do we draw the line at?
Where are the bounds?
Where are the bounds of what we're willing to accept in a culture with incest? Because is it, or even in Saxon's own mind, right? Is it more acceptable to lay next to him and jerk off while your brother fucks a woman? And where does it cross the line that your brother jerked you off?
And we're playing with power here too.
100%.
Like, it's very clearly, while it can't necessarily make sense of what the message is or what we're having the like deeper meaning is, the sex is representative of power.
Yeah.
And whereas episode 1, Saxon is showing off his ass and dick to Lachlan as a power play.
And where am I going to jerk off? I'm going to have to go to the bathroom to jerk off?
Yeah.
We should have seen this coming.
Oh, he'll jerk off anywhere.
He'll jerk off anywhere, and and it's like, don't worry, Lachlan will help you out.
Lachlan will lend you a hand. Because the moment that had us like scrumming is at the pool. Saxon comes, sits down, and doesn't make a pass at Miss Amy Lou Wood.
Yeah.
Chelsea's sitting there, and she's like, "Are you okay?" When you're such a menace that when you don't make a pass on the woman who multiple times has been like, "Please stay out of my lane."
Yeah.
She's like, "Hey, are you doing all right?"
Right.
Like, you seem a little off.
You seem a little off. You're not being such a fucking asshole to me.
Right. Oh, and he has that fucking, he's such a prissy bitch. I'm sorry. Being like, why wouldn't you have sex with me?
Oh, yeah. Well, because he was like, if I'd had sex with Amy Lou Wood last night, I never would have nearly fucked my brother.
And he's blaming the ladies. He's like, well, you two made us. You made us.
Oh, for sure. He'll do anything to. All of a sudden, he was the one who came into this being like, it's a plot. We're going to be in control. Let the girls get crazy. And now you've lost control. And now you want to play victim and they manipulated you. And if only Amy Lou Wood had hooked up with you, this never would have happened.
Hey, take some fucking responsibility for yourself. And the fact that I wonder who, to be honest, who at what point and why did Lachlan's little hand reach over to fucking jerk off his fucking brother?
Because his brother needed help. Lachlan's an empath.
He's feeling something.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit of grog too.
Well, we didn't really get to see much of Lachlan's fallout. I think we'll get to see it at the meditation center next week because we got to see what Saxon's going through. We also, I would like to talk about the difference between Chloe and Chelsea in this episode because, we're in the next morning. We're in the fallout. Chloe cheated. Chelsea didn't. Chelsea seems to be in a much better way this morning than Chloe does because Chloe had to go have that conversation with Gary Gregg and like to be asked point blank, like, you fucked those brothers. I know you did, so just tell me. Like,
just tell me.
And her to kind of know, like, shit, I fucked up because, like, yeah, I was playing with fire and I wanted to mess around with this relationship and he's been annoying me and I know I complain about him a lot, but this is a good situation. And then we see her kind of track through this stunning, gorgeous house. We see all these, I think we see the widest shots of Gary's house we've seen so far. We see that whole backyard pool that he's got and like these aerial shots while she goes through the house and it's like, yeah, you don't want to fuck this up, Chloe, and you're getting really damn close.
She looks like art in that house, by the way.
Oh my God, yeah, she belongs there.
And is the centerpiece.
Yeah, she is, yeah.
It was the first time that I was scared of Gary Gregg this episode.
Me too. Well, no, but I mean, Chloe's also, she looked amazing in the house, but she's also like, I feel like in this moment was the first time you can really see in her dynamic with Gary Gregg that I'm like, she is fundamentally replaceable.
She's an object.
That man with that house, he can probably get a lot of beautiful women to go live there.
Yeah.
And are they all going to cheat? Maybe.
What'd she call it? A situation?
Yeah, good situation.
And that's an arrangement.
Yeah, it's exactly what you're in. And that's, but you have to be careful when you're in a good situation to not fuck it up because I'm like, Chelsea didn't make that choice. And she told Saxon point blank, she was like, I'm not going to cheat on my boyfriend. He's my soulmate. Once you've been in real love, if I had sex with you, it would have been an empty experience because you're soulless and sad.
The soulless accusation.
That hurts.
Intense. I will say on that boat though, Chloe goes ahead and makes a call to Gary Gregg. Miss Amy Lou Wood, Chelsea makes a call to Rick.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like Rick makes accusations too a little bit, right?
Well, no, I think she kind of accuses Rick. It seems like, and they actually seem to have what ends up being kind of their dynamic. I think it's cuter in this episode because while he at first is like, I didn't party last night, but then by the end you hear Amy Lou Wood kind of in the back, she's on the phone and she's going, it's not love ya, I love you. Like, it's different. Like, she's making a distinction between him saying love ya and I love you.
No, that's a fight I'll have.
For sure, me too. But there's something playful about it compared to the conversation that Gary, Greg, and Chloe are having. You know what I mean? Like, that's a much harder conversation than getting to have, like, he's saying love ya, you know what I mean? And she's nitpicking on love ya versus I love you. Like, that's a play fight. What Gary, Greg, and Chloe are going through, not fucking around, her situation might fucking change.
Right. And that could be violent.
And when he told her to bring those boys to the party, he wasn't asking.
No, it's a murder fest. We're about to have AHS murder house on our hands.
Absolutely.
Multiple bodies.
I know. I'm so scared.
It's the suspicion, and that's what Mike White is doing brilliantly throughout the entire show and has done throughout the entire show. And we see this come up later with Sri Tala, is how much do our characters know? How much of them are like planning, scheming, gaming?
Yeah.
Because until we finish this season, we don't know.
Absolutely. Because anything could happen here.
Let's have thought exercise. Let's do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, I mean, as we talk about processing shame, as we talk about kind of a hangover of sorts, who's up early in the morning in his Duke University t-shirt? Timothy.
Starting the episode fucking traumatic.
Starting the episode with that, we didn't know, obviously, at first, is this reality? And Parker Posey and Sarah Catherine Hook, who, by the way, Sarah Catherine Hook, you earned your actor name this week. I've been calling you Pipe Down Piper this whole time. But that performance when you came in and saw Timothy's dead body and screamed, "What happened?" I said, okay, that's
where we start. Timothy blows his head off.
Yeah, so that's Sarah Catherine Cook reacting to that. And then thank God it was just a vision.
I know, we're doing a lot of dreams once again.
Yeah, like that vision. But I did appreciate, at least once it was over and we realized like he was just kind of envisioning what would happen. I was like, see, and that's what I was trying to tell you last week, which is like, you're not going to want to do it in the hotel room. And I think when you are kind of planning your escape from this earth via gun to the head, you're going to want to really think about how it's the discovery process, right? You're going to want to think about what's going to happen next. And yeah, I don't think doing it in your hotel room would have been the right call. So I'm glad he thought that through.
Or at least played it out. And it's striking me too right now that the dream or daydream, night dream of it all is another moment of spirituality.
Yeah.
It's another like dream analysis and like faith and stock and dreams and visions is, as they're talking about everything from Buddhism to astrology, Christianity, money, the market, what are your gods? What are the things that you believe in? Dreams. Earlier on, we mentioned that we've lived together for 4 years now. You love to talk about your dreams. That shit used to piss me the fuck off.
You hate to hear about them.
Yeah.
But it's not my fault. I'm a very active dreamer, and my dreams are really intense, and I sound like Hannah Horvath saying I bruise more easily than other people, but I'm like, my dreams...
She has a nutrient deficiency for sure.
My dreams are more interesting than other people's. Sorry, they're really intense. I'm an active lucid dreamer, and they're really affecting.
Absolutely. And interestingly, when we talk later about someone else's kind of feminine instincts, I became more interested and engaged with my own dreams and therefore others upon medically transitioning. Yeah.
We've never talked about this. Please tell me everything. Yes. You haven't told me about a single dream you've ever had in your life.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I have a lot of dreams about, which to their credit, which I'm very rare to do, isn't so much the case, but I have a lot of dreams about my immediate family members not using my name, using my dead name, not using my pronouns, and me screaming and fighting with them to please fucking see me, call me how I am. Like, a lot of that shit, and it's really, really fucking and traumatic and upsetting.
And on the nose.
I know. Or last night, what was I fucking...
Like, no ambiguity there.
No,
you're worried your family's not accepting your trans identity?
I guess, but...
What else could it mean?
I don't really know, but the point is that they're vivid. I mean, I'm talking about lucidity. I'm experiencing more association with my body, brain, and spirit than I ever have in my entire life.
Yeah.
So this is all a fucking huge trip.
I'm glad you're kind of getting to know that side of yourself. I find dreams to be very enlightening, and they really help you figure stuff out. Like, they're really helping Timothy in this episode.
Later in the episode, we have this really great moment between Timothy and Victoria, Miss Parker Posey.
Yeah.
Where she is like, who says about we need her to be afraid of poverty? Talking about Piper. It's like, we need her to be afraid of poverty like everybody else.
Like everybody else, so she can make good decisions.
Right. Which
you have to be afraid of poverty to make good decisions, which is really interesting. And in many ways,
fear.
Yeah, that fear as a motivator is another interesting question here, right? And that actually comes up. I think the Buddhist monk, he says that, I think pretty explicitly, he goes on this really incredible monologue whenever they go to the meditation center to check it out with Piper. And I don't buy, there's a bit of a departure, but all the people on TikTok who've been trying to insist that Parker Posey has been knowing what's going on, I think this episode has kind of put that theory to bed. Like, she is seriously concerned about Piper, and she does not seem to have any awareness that there's another tsunami headed her way.
That is really interesting, because she is, to your point, incredibly preoccupied with Piper, and not just this moment of again, if I'm looking at like a Black Widow type read, for her to sit there and be like, yeah, if I didn't have any money, I would not want to live anymore, which could be true to her just speaking only of her own experience. Is she again like being like, no, Timothy, like, do it. Right. But to your point, I want to ask you, what do you think is, she's incredibly worried about fucking Piper. Like, what is that mother-daughter?
Honestly, I think, well, she's definitely she's the classic mother who loves her sons more than daughter, and that is such a trope we see all the time. And she's doing this kind of humiliation ritual with Piper, where first thing in the morning, sons come home, it's like, oh, you boys are hungover. She's almost proud of them for being hungover, having partied on the boat, and little does she fucking know. And then she's like, well, there's news. Piper doesn't have a thesis. It's like it's to immediately she's been waiting for this one. She wants to humiliate her in front of the brothers. And then even the little challenge of like, okay, we'll go to the meditation center, and I dare you, I've seen the living conditions. They're pretty grim. I dare you to spend one night here, like, to challenge her in that way. Like, I'm like, she's addicted to kind of humiliating and belittling Piper any chance she kind of can get.
God, it's deeply upsetting. And is it so simple as mom and daughter?
Well, I think it's that Piper is a kid who does not want to follow in her mother's footsteps, like, very much so. And I think when you have a daughter, it's someone you're kind of raising your own image. And for Piper to be she calls their whole life bullshit, right? Like, she doesn't want anything her mother wants. And she, like, that's a hard pill to swallow, that, like, you produce someone so different from you and who in fact hates everything you're about and wants to do something so radically different. And I think that's why Parker Posey keeps bringing in all this. Everyone we know is like this. Everyone we know is a Christian. Everyone we know is scared of poverty. You should be like everyone we know. If you don't want to be like me, I failed as a mother. Like, that's hard.
And in the spirit of these themes of identity, she's challenging, to your point that you just made, Piper challenges Victoria's identity because Piper is questioning her existence and the validity of the role that she plays and the person that she is, the identity that she holds, by rebelling against it, by rejecting it.
Totally. And when Timothy says the thing, like, it might be good for Piper to live without some creature comforts, and Parker Posey says pretty definitively, like, oh, without my creature comforts, I don't think I'd have a will to live. And it's like, yeah, that's that kind of questioning and that association with spirit that Piper's deeply interested in. That crushes everything Parker Posey has lived for and built her whole life around. She doesn't have the wherewithal to start considering spirituality in any kind of serious way. That's just, she's spent however many years she's been on this earth building material wealth and building this really kind of grounded on paper
image.
An image and pleasant reality, a day-to-day reality that involves a very comfortable life where you can eat what you want, drink what you want, wear what you want, go where you want, right? Like she has, no, it's material. It's
money
not just
freedom,
an image.
yeah.
Money is freedom and money is comfort, right? And it's a comfortable life. And it is a, you know, and that's, I think Mike White calls into question in the whole show, right? Can money buy you happiness, right? Because most of these people, no, they're all searching for something. Everyone portrayed in the show is a rich person who, has access to the things that we all think would make us happy, like going to that wellness retreat, right? Getting to be able to go to the meditation center and get in touch with these things, like these, these things that are supposed to bring happiness, and these are not happy people.
Clearly not. They're people that are searching.
Right.
Really a lot. Dear God. And I get the sense too, perhaps there's a parable or a lesson in that at the point of their life that Timothy and Victoria are in, where their identities are threatened for the first time in quite some time. They are now kind of forced to be to confront and to reckon with the question of who are they without their self-conception as it is. Saxon is dealing with it a little bit earlier in his life, though still in his 30s.
Yeah.
Perhaps again.
30s?
Jesus, what do you think?
You're right? He's probably like, I thought he was maybe like 29, 28.
28 and in the sun.
And what?
In the sun.
Yeah. I think the actor's probably older, but I feel like the character is a youthful guy. But I guess, is he in his 30s? Because if so, I mean, that actually clicks a lot of things. Chat, how old is Saxon?
How old is Saxon? Because earlier on, I did read him like 30s initially, which is why I was like, now why are you on your family's vacation and why are you in a twin bed with Lachlan, other than you want to be close enough that he can jerk you off?
Well, and that's why he's so insecure too, right? Is like, because if the older he is, the more his insecurities make sense in the context of everything else, right? Like the older he is, the more of a failure he is so far in his life.
He's running around too this episode. I noticed a lot, like with his like weird little hats, his little sunglasses. Amy Lou Wood was chomping on an apple. I think it's really fun, the props that these actors use, and allows them to just have an activity that is really, I think more than anything helps them drop in. Sure, I'm like, oh cool, that's an Oakley hat, but I'm mostly like the way that Saxon is carrying and holding that thing around in front of him like it's a fucking shield is really just another layer that makes this a really fucking great, interesting show.
You're the best. I love watching TV with you.
I fucking love watching TV with you.
So fun.
And these people are doing a really great job.
These people are giving us a lot, and so thank you to everyone on the cast and crew.
Except for, again, when they have to do those humiliating little interviews at the end.
Oh my God, those humiliating interviews. I know y'all probably have more to say than that, but those interviews that they cut of y'all at the end of these shows make you all look like fools.
It's
all love.
Well, it's like, and it's just like, oh, you're a vacant vessel is how you appear.
Yes, and you all appear like vacant vessels, and I think I'd rather hear from the casting director than you about this role.
Right.
It seems like you don't even know why you were cast in this role because you're playing it so perfectly even in this interview.
No, being like, well, Saxon's the older brother. And it's like, Lachlan's like, and Lachlan's, well, he was quiet to the point.
Yeah, to the point.
LOL, a little bit on the nose.
Yeah.
These are really fun. Now to me, I think that we've hit the fucking stride of like, oh, we're in. Okay,
yeah, now we're finally in. Because let's talk about, I know we have touched on it a little bit, but let's talk about going to the meditation center. So we go back to the house. We're making a goddamn loud ass smoothie.
And I'm like, what is in that? Like fucking lemons? Like
creatine.
Diva's making a margarita. What is creatine?
Why would I know?
I don't know. Because you're a really athletic, healthful
creatine
person.
Is for boys. I think that's how they get big.
Oh, and he's not even that big. You better suck on that thing, baby.
No, but he actually kind of is though, because naturally he's probably born with a Lachlan style body, so he's worked really hard to get to the size he is.
Hello. So they're back at. Tell me where you want to go.
Lachlan's gonna go with Piper to the meditation center with mom and dad. They're gonna go interview the monk and find out if this is a good place for her. We head over to the monastery, and first thing, Piper goes in by herself. She's wearing that fuck-ass yellow dress, and she goes in and kind of starts talking to this guy and immediately starts crying about how she's so different from her family.
Yep.
And she is lost in her life, and that's why she wants to come meditate. And then all he kind of says is like, you can bring your parents in here. Yeah, I'll talk to them.
That's the Portia moment. Again, there's a lot of echoes and I don't know, like ghosts of these other characters all the time. It almost is it. And what's fun about the series that Mike White gets to create, it's a little bit like, oh, I wasn't done with this. I wasn't done talking about this.
Right.
I actually have more to say on this.
Yep.
But this moment is very like Portia with the like, I don't know who I am, and like without my phone, and I just, who am I? And she has a lot of these moments too. God, I feel for these fucking people. But yeah, she melts down in front of this guy crying. You really took, this was really compelling to you, this moment, because I asked our little group that was assembled here, I was like, is this compelling to anyone?
Oh, wait, yeah, Piper talking to him?
Yeah.
I was definitely compelled because it felt like confession, you know, and it felt, that's interesting to me too, that it felt like her experience of, like, she just so, that, and that was God in the room.
Oh, God is in the room with us now.
God is always with us, and always with Piper, because I think how badly she needs, like, someone to open up to, and how badly she needs to be saved. Like, she wants that monk sitting in front of her to save her so bad. He didn't say a word, and she sat down and just said everything that's going on with her to the point that she started crying. And like, I feel like this is a thing, right? Like, and then the monk goes on to say it, because when Timothy goes in to talk to him, several things happen in that scene. When the monk is talking to him, he brings up this great point about like, oh, you're wondering why your daughter's coming here? Well, here's what it is. I see a lot of young American kids from your country who want to come here and do this. And they want to do this because they're lost, because their life is created in pursuit of chasing pleasures, because they don't have any connection to nature. Pain, they're running from pain, and they're coming here to deal with that. So I've seen this before. So your daughter kind of coming in front of me, sitting in front of me for 2 seconds, and she's crying about how lost she is. Like, baby, it's a generational issue in your country. Like, they're all lost and they keep coming here. And that's why she's here.
It's also, to your point, this is the first time that Piper speaks uninterrupted about her experience, about how she's feeling. And it does really throw into contrast all the other moments. Whenever she tries to have any of this conversation with her mother, she's pushing back. Saxon's always like, you're dumb as fuck. Buddhism is for idiots. Why would you want that? She seems to have some support from Lachlan.
But even when she does try to open up with Lachlan, if you remember them on the hammocks, in one of the first or second episode, they're on the hammocks, and he asks her if she's ever like felt the presence of God, and she's like, yeah, I have. And then his response to that is, Saxon says you're a virgin.
Which,
like, to immediately kind of sexualize her in this way. Like, everyone is, projecting. Parker Posey's projecting onto her to be like a mini her. Timothy's projecting onto her as this person he's supposed to protect, that he's failing to protect. Lachlan is projecting onto her his kind of sexual awakening, and Saxon is projecting onto her this kind of hatred and this oppositional energy. She really doesn't have a space to kind of actually, and that's when she keeps saying she needs to find her purpose and figure herself out. I'm like, she's in a really noisy environment. Like, she needs to be somewhere quiet where she can.
She needs a fucking breath.
Yeah, and so I think a year at the meditation camp, I'm like, I get it. It might help.
And I don't know a ton about Buddhism, for example, but the question that Timothy brings,
what happens when you die?
Yeah, what happens when you die? The big questions.
Well, the big question. Well, and I would answer that question very, very similarly to the monk. And in fact, I have quick story time. One time, I'm at a bar, 45-year-old man and I go to a bar. Okay, we just met. We go to a bar. It's about 1:30 in the morning. It's clandestino, of course. And there's this like table of people he kind of knows, and they kind of call me over. And this guy goes, "Hey, what do you think happens when we die?" And I sit down because I go, "Oh, you've asked the right person. I've been waiting for this one."
Yeah.
Right. So I sit down, and immediately I kind of go into this whole spiel of being like, I was like, okay, so the first thing that happens when you die is you remember. You are immediately put back into a collective consciousness with all of the experiences you've had before, and you're either going to kind of go back or you're not, based on wherever you are in your soul's journey, right? Like, and at one point, when we all become one unified collective consciousness, will be when every experience has been lived by kind of every soul, right? So you'll kind of go back. So you've chosen where you were born, all these different things. And this isn't what the monk said, but the point is, then that guy was like kind of gagged by me. Okay, yeah. He was like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "I don't know, Aaron." And he goes, "Can I get your TikTok?" And I was like, that felt random because I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And I gave him my TikTok. Don't think anything of it. Next day, I go to TikTok, look at who like messaged me. He has like 5 million followers in a page completely dedicated to like near-death experiences, reincarnation, and basically saying exactly what I had said to him at this bar. It was like so crazy. That's why he was so like astounded. He was like, it was like his whole page was just saying that kind of stuff.
Have you followed up with this person?
Sometimes he's on live, and then I get on live and I say, "Hey kid, remember that time in Clandestino?" And he goes, "Hi Aaron," on like his live.
Whoa.
And that's our only connection since. But really, really crazy. But I loved that the monk, where I say he answered similar to me, was not necessarily in the content, but when he goes, "Great question." It's like, I've actually been waiting for this one and I'm ready to tell you. But then he unfortunately tells Timothy's getting a lot of signs in this episode that are all pointing him towards some logical conclusions that he is coming to, and that telling Timothy death is a welcome return, that you are dropping.
It's like coming home.
It's like coming home. You're a drop in the ocean, that it's like being alive is one drop rising and rising, and then as you get older it falls and falls and falls until you die and you rejoin the ocean, and it feels like a return home. And like, is that exactly what he needed to hear, or the worst thing he could have possibly heard? Right.
Is that like gonna push him over the edge?
But again, what's the edge? Is it I mean, that's the question I have for that's speaking of shame. Suicide is so shamed in our culture, and for me, where I'm like, he might need to return home.
I mean, well, oh God.
Like, remember today we watched that episode of Rick and Morty where they play Roy, the video game where you play as like a man who works at a carpet store.
Perfect.
And then like, it's like, oh, you got cancer and then went back to the carpet store, is how like Morty plays the game. And then Rick like takes him off the grid, doesn't get a social security number. And I'm like, Timothy's game of Roy just might be ending this way. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, he just might have lost.
Yes. And to your point, and how this episode starts is Timothy's not in a vacuum.
Yeah.
His actions and what is the welcome homecoming for him is going to be a fucking like big ass trauma for everyone else around him.
Well, that's why he's considering taking mom with him.
Oh my God, the flash that he has of, and talking about like as you get older, getting back to the collective consciousness. Yeah, he's flashing out of a murder suicide.
Well, right.
And I asked earlier in the episode, I said, do you think that he loves her? And then during his little flash, you know, his daydream where he imagines killing Victoria Parker Posey's character and then himself, he says, "I love you," bang, and then hits himself. And it's like,
yeah, I mean, because I think in his mind, he's seriously considering, would it be a generous act to welcome us both home? Because if you really mean it, and I think she really, really does, if you really mean it, you don't want to live if we lose everything, then maybe the most generous thing for him to do is take them both out, right? Like,
and I'm going to get out of my expertise a little bit, but I want to acknowledge that and also welcome additional information. But the idea of the shame in suicide is very Western ideal.
Yeah.
So in Japan,
right.
But their relationship to suicide is a lot different.
Yeah.
And as well as like, even again, I'm out my ass, but in terms of like honor killings and killing oneself in honor, there's a cultural language or reference for that we simply do not have here.
Well, and I think it's a comfortability too with perhaps endings in general, you know,
and a collective as opposed to an individual. These things are at play too.
Well, right, because when you're part of like the ending of your life, when your life is part of a larger community, culture, and narrative in the world, and you're that drop in the ocean, you're a lot more comfortable with your one little droplet just going back, right? Like, it's, you just consider yourself as part of a whole, whereas like when you are so westernized and you have this identity that is so locked in, right? Like that all of them have. Yourself, you can't really see beyond yourself, and to end yourself is to end everything, right? Like that question of what happens when you die, it's like it's so self-centered in many ways, you know what I mean? Because it's like, what happens when you die? Well, the world keeps turning. The world keeps spinning and everything keeps happening. Like that's what happens.
And when you zoom out of that picture too of the water and the droplets, it's like you can imagine just rain, for example, on the water. And we just are so zoomed in of where especially our men are conceiving themselves on a hero's fucking journey where there's a beginning and end. Positioning oneself as the hero or the protagonist in one's own life also inevitably leads to a lot of antagonism and painting other people as enemies as against you. And that is really coming to fuck these people up.
Yeah. Can we talk about the ladies?
Let's get into the ladies
who continue
to at every subsequent like scene we get with them elevate, escalate, heighten.
Yep. Leslie Bibb's face when she saw Valentine walk out of that hotel room. Kate is such a funny character too because she's super
Leslie Bibbs,
like willing to gossip.
Yeah.
And she's super interested in that. She's super interested in gossip, but she's not interested in conflict. Right? That's a fundamental difference between. And it also is a difference between Texas, LA, and New York that comes out a lot in that scene of the pool, right? Because we have Carrie Coon who's going to go right for it. Like, that's very New York to be very honest and be like, oh, no, I want to acknowledge this dynamic and the fact that you fucked Valentine last night as a group. And I'm going to tell you that Kate's the one who told me. And what? And when Kate goes, scoffs, and she goes, you did. Like, she wants to put it all out there. Both Leslie Bibb and Michelle Monaghan are not interested in doing this. Like, they're like, no, we are comfortable lying to each other and all holding a shared fake reality, right? Like, that's cool for us because we like that, right? That's how we choose to live our lives. And so there's these different moments where they all relate to each other on different levels. And on this episode, I think Kate thought she was so excited to show up at that breakfast and share this bit of gossip. And now I think she's so disappointed in Carrie Coon for putting it all out there like that and now changing the dynamic because she was willing to gossip, which that doesn't change anything, right? If no one tells anybody what they're gossiping about, the dynamic stays level. As soon as you put something out in the open like that and admit to the other, Kate told me, which meant we talked about you this morning while you weren't here. Everybody knows that that's happening, but as soon as you acknowledge it out loud in front of the group, now you've changed the dynamic. Now things are escalating. And so Carrie Coon's kind of compulsive honesty in that. And when she tells Leslie Bibb, like, I'm not like you, I just have to be honest.
Which also is fake righteousness to me. Like, absolutely. I mean, Leslie Bibb's Kate talks about politeness and not saying everything all the time. Equates those. Carrie Coon gets on her high horse as Lori of being like, no, like, I say the truth. I acknowledge what's going on. It's like, well, that has its own limitations insofar as that you're not being transparent about how you feel about what is going on. You're being like, I'm laughing. Ha ha.
That was another way I really, really related to another episode where I did see myself in Carrie Coon.
Yeah.
Because I also suffer from big fucking mouth disease. Where I'm sick. I cannot keep my mouth shut, especially when something's going on. Like, and I have a feeling about it, and especially when I'm triggered, like she is. Like, she brings it up, like, that nothing's changed since the 10th grade. And I'm like, her childhood rejection wound and the idea that it all goes to Jacqueline, right, is so triggered right now that thinks she's being honest and she's defending herself and saying, I'm doing this out of a righteous reason. But it's like, baby, we can all see that you are hurt and flailing.
And trying to inflict pain.
And I'm like, I saw that and I said, I should listen to the people who've been telling me I need to work on this.
Yeah, when you share information, when you share somebody else's information, it has consequences. And this, like, well, I didn't think you were going to, what did you expect? Sure, maybe there's some gossip, but it's like, no, baby, when you introduced this, she's like, I didn't think you were going to say anything.
Well, she's like, I expected you. What did you expect? She said, I expected you to have decorum and respect for other people. And Carrie Coon said, well, you have the wrong fucking number.
Wrong number
Because she's a lawyer. She is the opposite of afraid of confrontation. And especially now that she feels like she has won over Jacqueline maybe Jacqueline took her man for the weekend, but she just caught Jacqueline cheating on her husband. Or even worse, you have an open relationship, you can tell us.
And and Carrie Coon's Lori does the thing that is, I mean, I don't want to say an unforgivable, but she does the thing where she accuses Jacqueline of existing and behaving for the male gaze.
Well, but in many ways,
for male validation.
Well, that's my thing. I don't think it's inaccurate. Like, I actually don't think Carrie Coon is saying anything that's not the truth. It's just, when is the truth appropriate, and when are you weaponizing the truth to hurt someone unnecessarily because you're hurt, right? Like, and I feel like too, this episode,
right,
we saw a lot of, like, I definitely saw this with Jacqueline's husband, who finally calls. And I think those are those things too, because I think this episode, when I was talking about kind of the aerial shots and seeing how dynamics start to change, is that, like, I think sometimes, especially people in romantic relationships, there's a felt push and pull dynamic. Okay. So it makes a lot of sense to me where
like pursuer pursued.
Yes, and that as soon as Jacqueline cheats, as soon as she pulls away, now he finally calls her, right? Like, I'm like, he felt that energetically. Right, like, relationships really work that way, because she had been kind of pining for him prior, and as soon as she turns her back, now he wants her again. And she's probably constantly in this push and pull of pursuer and pursued, right? And, like, I feel like that happens all the time, right? It's that intuition. It's like that intuition that your partner's done something. It's that dream that you had that your partner cheated on you, and he probably did. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like these intuitive dynamics, once you're intertwined romantically with people, that you feel when things change, even very subtly, even across the fucking world, right?
The other, as you're saying that, makes me pick up on, if we're looking at these women's different relationships to conflict, is Kate was willing to, or comfortable to like hold the secret and let it be amongst them. Carrie Coon wasn't so interested in that, and in fact wanted to directly address it and bring it out into the open. Jacqueline's response to all of it is to fucking lie. Deny, lie,
and then insist that you stop. I said nothing happened. That's what I said. Now we're all supposed to accept that. It's like, oh.
But I don't. And to me, the only resolution for these people, I guess, is like, do they just stop being friends? Like, they're not really friends.
Well, they're not really friends. They're, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what's the realistic outcome for these people? It's like, well, do you want to just enjoy the vacation? Do we want to hang out? Like, clearly, when you're talking about what is the intention, like, Carrie Coon is trying to fucking hurt Jacqueline. She has a negative opinion. She wants to disparage her. And I don't think it's not earned, but she finally has, to your point, the fucking ammunition to do so.
Well, and it's like the righteousness of it all too, because you see why when you push someone like Lori to the edge, like, she becomes a bully. She's a strong woman. They've been fucking with her the whole time, especially Jacqueline is pushing her buttons. And then, now she's mad when you poked the bear enough times, and now the bear is growling and wants to eat you. And it's like, sure, we don't like when the bear is acting like that, and we can all agree she's acting kind of like immaturely and really reactive. But at the same time, it's like, you empathize with her because, Jacqueline has pushed her to this point, no doubt.
Jacqueline says, I didn't do anything. And it's like, I didn't have a scheme. I didn't have a this.
And that's not fair, right? Because it's like, and then I feel like Kate is going to ultimately support Jacqueline's reality too. And I think that was probably also always their dynamic in high school, because Jacqueline moves in the shadows, and Jacqueline is sneaky, and Jacqueline keeps her intentions locked up and then just does behavior so she can have this kind of plausible deniability all the time that things just happen, right? And Carrie Coon knows that's not the case, but Leslie Bibb is going to prefer a reality that is a shared, maintained reality that is a web of lies. Like, that is just her preferred state, is that no one's rocking the boat.
No one's rocking the boat. And in terms of, like, what not just she's comfortable with, but, you know, earlier we talked about with the Trump thing, the idea of proximity to power with the person who is making the narrative.
Yep.
Jacqueline offers her a lot of social capital. Like,
absolutely.
Who do you want to be friends with? Who offers you ultimately in your little life in Texas, in your little self-image, the actress, the mildly famous actress who isn't really controversial.
Right.
The fucking divorcee lawyer with the bruiser of a daughter. That's not who she's going to back.
Right. I think we just have to talk about the staff, right?
It's the staff lounge.
Staff lounge. That's kind of the end of our podcast. That's not really a class thing. We always put the staff at the end. It's something else.
Well, it's also not something that the show or the show's author seem particularly interested in as well. It's a show about the guests.
Because all we know about the staff this episode, we got Fabian is going to sing at the party tonight, and that he's coming up to Belinda like and there's a part where he's in the car like because he's hype on the fact that he's going to sing tonight, and it's so funny because it's like he's so a good example of a character who is the hero of his own story. Everybody's the hero of their own story, and Fabian singing he thinks he's an A-plot. You know what I mean? Like, he wants to sing tonight, and I'm like, you forgot what Belinda told you just the other day. He just goes, are you feeling better about that? And she goes, not really. And he goes, okay, well, if you want to come to the lounge later, I'm going to be singing a song. I'm pretty nervous. And it's like,
yeah, who gives a fuck?
So out of touch.
She plays it so well. Natasha Rockwell, when you're talking again about like a best supporting actress off,
oh my God,
she's the goddamn contender. The way that she ices him the fuck out, she's like, no, I'm not. This is my son.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, her performance.
Let's not be complicit in these fucking weirdos. Like, again, he doesn't really give a fuck one way or another how bought into his little narrative you are. He's the main character anyway. You might as well be fucking honest.
Literally 100, because he can't even notice.
No, he's like, well, why aren't you asking me about how I'm feeling about
my singing?
Because we don't, baby singer don't sing. I don't give a fuck.
I don't have time for this.
I know a lot of other ones, and they're gonna sing and dance. They're already entertaining me. You're boring me.
Right. It's like, yeah, you're gonna sing. We have Mook.
No, which talk about Mook, our little staff corner.
Oh my God, Guy Talk gets a gun, and now Mook is skipping around, so happy, so charmed. Please,
Jesus.
Guy Talk just like. You're so fucking lucky you got the gun in time for the gun range and the date. And honestly, I hope those things do not go fucking well for you because, like, fuck off. You don't deserve it. I'm so mad that by happenstance you were able to get the gun back right on time.
Right on time. And I did pause for a second to be like, well, oh, good. Now Guy Talk's got a gun. Is that really what we want?
Right. Is that better than Timothy having a gun? I mean, maybe because I think Guy Talk's less likely to murder Suey, but I do.
Shit. Yeah.
But I don't know what he's going to do with the gun. Like, I don't trust him with it either.
I don't think he's inept. And I love the Guy Talk's boss being like, you really shouldn't be taking the gun out until we teach you how to use it. It's like, well, cat's out of the bag, diva.
You gave him the gun.
Without teaching him how to use it.
100%.
And not only is Mook, it does make me wonder in this moment, though. I'm like, we've identified before that Lisa Blackpink is a phenomenal actor.
Lisa Blackpink is a really phenomenal actress.
So I'm curious to know whether or not and to what extent we will use her talent.
Me too, because we don't know.
Just kind of somebody who's in love with Guy Talk.
Sure.
Right. Again, how much does she know? How much does she not know?
And is there more going on with her? Because I would like to know if so, and I would like it sooner than later.
What a trip.
What a trip. I mean, I think all that else that happened in this episode was we got to meet Belinda's super cute fucking son. Hello, Zion. It's nice to have you here. You're adorable. I can't wait to get to know you better as we continue on. I like the way you handled seeing your mom have sex and that you were supportive and sweet, like loving their dynamic. He's adorable. She's adorable. We got the moment with Porn Chai where Porn Chai is so sweet in the morning, but he's also like, hey, like, which is kind of the worst thing I think you can ask somebody after kind of like a hookup is like, hey, do you want to start a business together? It's like, okay, well, maybe one thing at a time.
Well, not just that. I'm like, I was commenting as we were watching the show that I think that the experience that Belinda had with Tanya, where Tanya was like, I'm going to give you the money for a spa. And the failure to realize that like little dangle in front of her, I think did Belinda some good. And she was like, let's, to your point, one thing at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah, it's still a dream. And that's the thing. It's like when you have someone like Belinda who is a dreamer, having her dreams crushed with Tanya is like probably the best thing that can happen to her, because now she's a more practical person. But
protect your dream.
Protect your dream. And then also with Porn Chai, though, because like Porn Chai is obviously so hot and sweet and cute, and him kind of offering that in that really genuine way, I think it's going to be hard for Belinda to, when a man like that walks into your life, like that's so kind of unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm suspicious, but
I'm suspicious and skeptical, but like, because it would take a lot of self-confidence to have that man ask you that question and believe him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, to believe, oh, I believe that I deserved a trip to Thailand and to meet this incredible man who's obsessed with me and wants to start a business with me and welcome my son and be like the sweetest and best. Like, I'm like, to let that be your reality, you have to believe you deserve that. And I don't know if she does. I don't know. And if she does, but I don't know if she believes that. And I think that might be her biggest obstacle, because I think Porn Chai is coming off very, very genuine. Like, I don't distrust him the way with Tanya. To me, it was obvious, right? It was like, oh, babe.
Oh, from the beginning.
There's not going to be a swimming pool.
You stupid bitch.
Exactly.
Right. And one of the questions we return to every time we see some of, these EFG plots is, do we have time for this? And what is the function it's serving? Yes, we're getting some fun rom-com type interactions.
Yeah.
The biggest feeling I'm left with time and time again is the murder mystery vibe of it all, where it's like we are seeing the detective, somebody who is a key plot point that we got to keep alive, where, for example, Greg accosts her on the walk and is like,
that was scary.
Remember me? Like, yeah, you said you didn't remember her.
Greg got scary as fuck this episode.
He was like, why don't you come up? I'm the last house on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you come up?
Yep.
Bring your son.
Bring your son.
And he's all around plotting a scheme and being like, I got to do something.
Getting everybody over to his house. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm very, very scared,
I'm not going there. And what is he going to rope fucking Chelsea into?
And is Lachlan going to tell Piper that he jerked off his brother?
Yeah. Can't wait to find out.
Meditate on that. Love y'all. Thanks for listening to Stream Queens.
I'm Julia.
I'm Erin.